everyone. Morning. It's so nice to see you. Welcome to New York Law School and to today's program, Big Things Happening in Queens. My name is Matt Gawab. I'm the Senior Associate Dean at New York Law School, and we're just delighted to have everybody here. Also, a proud Queens resident, which makes today even more special. I also bring greetings from our Dean, Anthony Crowell, who is traveling today, but wishes he could be here and sends regards. This event actually began as a much smaller idea. We were looking for opportunities to deepen our engagement with the Alliance for Flushing Meadows Corona Park. I'm proud to serve as a board member in that organization. The chair of that organization, Danny Zausner, I think, is here with us in front. And what started as a conversation about that smaller program quickly turned into something bigger. As we looked around Queens and thought about structuring that smaller breakfast, it became clear that we were living through a really extraordinary moment for the borough. Few places in the country have as much happening at once as Queens does right now. From major development projects like Willets Point, airport redevelopment, and casino projects, the US Open, Governor's Ball Music Festival this weekend, to the US Open. Yeah. Queens, yes, yeah, that's worthy of a cheer, I think. Queens is a focal point for investment, innovation, entertainment, and tourism. There's such an incredible amount of activity, opportunity, and change in the borough. So we realized this wasn't just a conversation about Flushing Meadows Corona Park, although that's a really critical part of it, but it is a conversation about Queens itself and how public, private, nonprofit, and community leaders can work together to shape its future. Today's program is also the first stop in what we hope will become a broader journey through New York City's boroughs, led by the Center for New York City and State Law here at New York Law School, with programs focusing on all the 5 boroughs of the city. And as a law school located in the heart of New York City, of course, part of our mission is to convene discussions like this, to bring together leaders, practitioners, scholars, community members, elected officials to discuss the issues that will shape our city. We're especially pleased today to be joined by Queens Borough President Donovan Richards over here in the front. At a time when so much is happening across the borough, there's really no one better to help set the stage for today's conversation. Through his leadership and advocacy, he's been at the center of so many of the opportunities and challenges that are shaping Queens's future, and we'll hear from him in a moment. So now, to introduce our panel and talk about the run of show, really pleased to introduce Ben Max from our Center for City and State Law.
Just 1 minute from me, I promise, and then you'll hear from the people you're really here to hear from. As Matt said, I'm Ben Max. I'm a program director and executive editor here at the Center for New York City and State Law. We have a lot of great programming here at the center that some people in the room know about. I see a lot of regulars, and then I see a lot of people who this might be your first event with us, so please do come back. As Matt said, we'll be doing a tour through the boroughs over the course probably of the next year or so. You know, we have a lot of other events that we do as well, but this is a kickoff and, of course, a great borough to start with. And once we get to our panel, your 2 moderators for today, myself and Katie Honan, are 2 Queens kids, although I've left the borough now. I know it's bad. Yeah, maybe I'll come back someday. But we both grew up in Queens, and Katie's still there. Really excited for this program today. Really thankful to our speakers. We have a great lineup that we're going to get to right now. You're about to hear our keynote remarks from the borough president, who we're so pleased made the journey from Queens to be with us today. Thank you again. And then we're really excited to have remarks from the city's 2026 World Cup Czar, Handa, who's here, who's going to speak about what the Mamdani administration, the city, and partners are doing around the World Cup, which is kicking off very soon. That's the extent of my soccer knowledge. But Maya will join us right after the borough president, and then we'll get into our panel that Katie and I will moderate with our great panelists who will introduce when we get to that portion. And then Towards the end of the panel, we'll have a little bit of audience Q&A. You see the microphone set up there, so hopefully you have some good questions for the panelists when we get to that portion. Please have pastries throughout and so forth. Thank you again to the speakers today for agreeing to do this event. We're excited to have everybody here and for this turnout. And now, Queensborough President Donovan Richards, please join us. Thank you.
Right, good morning. It's Queens in the house. All right. So you've heard right. There are, in fact, big things happening in Queens. And I couldn't be prouder to serve as your borough president, the 122nd borough president of Queens. Oh, 122 years, the first Black man as borough president of Queens. But it's truly an honor to be here. First, I want to thank Ben Max for his invitation to speak today. And and of course, I want to thank Katie Honan, who whips out her phone often at politicians, and they can't run fast enough. And I got to witness that at Rockaway Beach yesterday. But in all seriousness, thank you both for what you do to speak truth to power and holding us accountable, even as elected officials, as you should. And in case you've been living under a rock, the Queens of 5 or 10 years ago is not the Queens of today. The chop shops at Willets Point have been replaced by affordable housing in a Major League Soccer stadium. The third world country that Joe Biden called LaGuardia is now a first-rate airport that Queens can be proud of. We went from worst to first, actually, and ranked the #1 airport in the country. We've got 2 casinos coming to the borough, along with nearly 50,000 union jobs. But not only are we building with brick and mortar, we're building a reputation as a true cultural heartbeat of New York City. Governor's Ball brings the biggest music artists in the world to Flushing Meadows each summer. Can't wait to be there this weekend. The official World Cup fan zone is here in Queens at the USTA. We've even got the Olympics coming to town in 2028 with 9 soccer matches set to take place at Etihad Park. And if you remember the fight over the 2012 Olympics, you will definitely know how wild it is that we'll have the games here in just after 16 years later. We are building the first children's museum at Queens Museum, which I'm extremely proud of because I was tired of taking my son to Brooklyn and to Long Island. We've put a significant amount of capital into that project, and we'll break ground actually this year. There's truly never been a better time to call Queens home. On the housing front, I've been clear for years that the only way out of this crisis is to build our way out. And that's exactly what we're doing. Up in northern Queens, families have started moving into Willets Point Commons, in which we cut the ribbon on a few weeks ago. The first 880 units of what will be 2,500 units of affordable housing, making it the city's largest affordable housing development in 40 years is underway. We rezoned Long Island City and Jamaica, which paves the way for more than 25,000 units of new housing. Alongside Governor Hochul, we're redeveloping 50 vacant acres on the Creedmoor campus to the tune of 2,000 new homes, a majority of which will be set aside for affordable home ownership. And of course, we will do some supportive housing and veterans housing as well on the site. And there's great possibilities. We've heard the mayor talk about possibilities at Sunnyside Yards. Still holding my breath around the Trump administration on that. But it's the Rockaways that has become the blueprint of what responsible community development looks like. We broke ground officially on Auburn East a few weeks ago, we project 1,650 units of housing. It will be the first net zero community in New York City and in the East Coast, perhaps. There are real homes being built right now as we speak, and they will be running on geothermal energy, which is huge. And you may have seen me crying on social media about it, but we just cut the ribbon a few weeks ago on the final Rockaway Village Tower. What was once a parking lot owned by pigeons is now a living, breathing, and that's a true story, is now a living, breathing embodiment of what is possible when we invest in communities that have never received real investment before. We also will construct the first H&H facility which is around a $60 million facility at that site, which is under construction now. We anticipate that will serve 30,000 residents of the Rockaways. We also broke ground a few years ago on Edgemere Commons, which is under construction, which will yield over 2,000 units, not to mention a 30,000 square foot supermarket, which will close the door on the Rockaways, especially being labeled a food desert. All this housing doesn't mean anything, though, if you're not simultaneously creating economic opportunity. I think you can say we're doing that down at JFK, the largest economic development project in the borough's history. That airport is not only the front door to our borough, it's the front door for our city, state, and country. So we're giving it the $20 billion overhaul it needs in the form of new terminals and new amenities, but most importantly, tens of thousands of good paying union jobs for Queens residents. And may I add, when I became borough president, our unemployment rate was about 26%. Proud to say we're down to 4.3% today. As the co-chair of the JFK Redevelopment Advisory Board, trust me, we are hammering the Port Authority every month to make sure they're keeping their commitments, especially during a time where we see Washington, D.C. challenging, especially MWBE procurement contracts. We know that diversity is our strength in our county. Just yesterday, last night, at our Borough Board meeting, we had a great presentation by the MTA as we move full steam ahead with the Interborough Express, which would run roughly 14 miles from Jackson Heights to Bay Ridge. And I always say Jackson Heights to Bay Ridge, not Bay Ridge to Jackson Heights, all right? And we project that project because the Bay Ridge people are going to come and spend all their money in Queens County. But we project that this project will significantly move over 160,000 riders per weekday. In a few weeks, we're going to flip the switch on at the Champlain Hudson Express, which will power over 1 million homes across the city by running hydroelectricity from Canada to Queens. I have to talk about open space and have to shout out the Queens Way. Congratulations on your $43 million investment, and I want to thank the Mayor Mamdani for keeping his word in his proposed exec budget to significantly invest there. Down at Flushing Meadows, Corona, we're just formed a huge task force because this park has totally been under invested in, and we want to ensure that we really break out the full potential. As a matter of fact, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. For those who don't know the history of the playground for all at Flushing Meadows Corona Park, you'll know that it's the first park in the country, but you may not know, the first park in the country that was designed for kids with disabilities. First park. However, it hasn't been touched since probably the World's Fair from '64. True story. So we are investing close to $20 million into that park this budget. We also just created a new task force around the park, so we hope to really come back to the mayor next year, which I have had some extensive conversations with him on already, with a blueprint for the next budget, because we can talk about making the park better, but we know that we need to see significant investment there, and we want to ensure that the administration is fully on board there. Meanwhile, we have more than 1,400 new jobs, as I move on, coming online at Resorts World as we speak, and very proud of all the significant work happening there. We're now in the process at looking at their specific site in terms of housing as well. So we just launched a public process with ESD, Empire State Development Corporation, and we hope to have some good news there in the days to come as well. We're very extremely proud of all the investment that Resorts World has made to Queens County, and I know we're going to see a lot more come online in the days to come. And of course, construction on Metropolitan Park has started, even as there's some news about a court case today, but I believe we will be victorious in that project. And between both of these projects, it's not just simply about the casinos. It's about the Kenny the Jet Center. It's about the STEAM Center on site, the possibilities of housing at Aqueduct, for the casino at Metropolitan. It's about ensuring we have another concert venue there, that we have the Taste of Queens Food Hall. So there's really a keen opportunity to not just focus specifically on the casinos, which are the anchor, but to make sure that we also have some community development as well. So as we talk about this is nearly 50,000 union jobs in communities that badly need them, especially in Corona, where countless families live on the margins, and survival work is more prevalent than anywhere any one of us would like. Through these projects, we're unlocking billions of dollars in community benefits, like a new Willets Point subway station, new parks, support for nonprofits, not to mention close to a $300 million fund between both, which community advisory boards will be set up to ensure that we can really build infrastructure for our communities. Now, not to mention the establishment of Queens becoming an international entertainment hub, which will pay dividends for decades to come as well, and something we can all be proud of. Now, with it being budget season, I have to plug that my office has invested over $403 million into community infrastructure, actually now close to, will be $515 million after this budget. And that includes $116 million for schools, $73 million for parks, $51 million for our cultural groups, $45 million for our hospitals and more. But we don't throw money around just to do so. We are as strategic and precise as possible, always informed by the needs of our families and the struggles they endure. Where I'm from in Rockaway, we're tired of losing our young people like Brandon Figueroa to drowning. So that's why we're building the first aquatic center in the history, public parks, New York City Parks run aquatic center for Rockaway. And it will be an indoor and outdoor pool. We've secured $60 million for this project, $26 million coming directly out of my own budget. Down in Southeast Queens, unfortunately, we lost a young man a few weeks ago, Jaden Anthony Pierre, to gun violence, and most of us saw the shock and awe of that video. And one of the things we wanted to ensure is that our young people had a safe space to go, and his death will never be in vain to us. And so we will break ground on a new $140 million community center at that park, and we hope to name the center in his memory. Of course, the memories of our hospitals being overwhelmed by COVID are still seared into our mind. That's why we've invested $7 million into Mount Sinai, Queens, to build a new expanded ICU. And of course, Elmhurst Hospital has received significant capital from us to make sure that they can expand their services, and especially their NICU, which hasn't been touched probably from the 60s. And that's where, if you go in, it will break your heart, where babies who have significant challenges, newborns who have significant challenges, that they can have a facility worthy of them. And I always say you shouldn't be born into the world, into a disparity. As somebody who has just recently lost 3 family members to cancer, burying one next week, 3 in 2 months, it's really been a tough time for the family. And I always talk about my grandmother in 2003, me having to trek up to Memorial Sloan Kettering. And that was about a 2-hour travel time one way, right? By the time you get on the bus on Jamaica Avenue to the E, and then you got to get to the 6, and then you got to walk up the hill in the winter. It is really troubling. But I called the governor one day because she had 2 grants, and I said, people in Southeast Queens should not have to leave their borough or community to have significant investment in cancer care, especially since significantly people of color are more impacted, even though cancer is really taken off for everyone now. So we secured $180 million, and we're building the first standalone cancer center at Jamaica Hospital. I'm very proud that that will be done in conjunction with Sloan Memorial Kettering as well. So it's going to be a great deal to not have to leave your community, because no matter what your socioeconomic status is, your zip code, it all have quality care. Far too many of our schools look the same as well as they did in the 1970s. I talked about that $116 million investment, and we've really used the power of the budget to really fix a lot of the disparities. Matter of fact, I was a little troubled in Jamaica High School, so I went back and I apologized to them for my behavior last year, and I dropped them a $10 million check. Do you think they forgave me? They asked me to come back as a keynote, so I did something right. And one of the biggest focuses we're also doing across the borough is we would love to see hydroponic labs in every school across Queens County, and we've done over 46 thus far. So we're building out hydroponic labs, culinary kitchen, aeronautic workshops, even as I talk about the work happening at JFK and LaGuardia, we know we need to build out pipelines for our young people. And I just met with the president of Delta, who flew in last week, and we discussed even more, having more of a partnership there. But very proud that August Martin is now significantly seeing investment there, and we've just opened up an aeronautics lab for them. We converted an old garage into that for them, and they are doing some outstanding way, and we hope to create pathways through aviation management starting there, and then aviation high school, which I want to thank the mayor has just invested in. I don't want to break news on it, but has significantly invested there and in a space that is going to really reform, especially during a time where we see air traffic control and we see a lot of challenges in employment in our airlines. And I often say, because we believe that every kid, regardless of zip code or socioeconomic status, deserve the same opportunity to thrive and grow, we must continue to invest in them. It's through this work that we become a magnet for global attention through events like Governor's Ball, the World Cup, and the Olympics. And when you invest in the potential of your people, the rest of the world can't help but to notice. But it takes real leadership to not just articulate a vision, but to execute it. So I want to thank all of the leaders, so many friends in this room, because this work cannot be done in a silo. It really takes public and private partnerships to really execute this vision. And I want to thank all of you who've really been a part of my journey the last 6 years as borough president, but prior to that, of course, 7 years as a city council member. There's never been a more exciting time to call Queens home. And I will also just talk about infrastructure before I close out, because we just witnessed in Hollis, once again, neighborhood getting flooded out. And I will say that I'm extremely proud of the work that DDC continues to do across the borough with us. We just had a presentation on almost, I want to say, close to 100 projects that are some underway and some that will be under construction in the near future. Many of you will remember I was the chair of environmental protection in the council. We secured $2.4 billion during that period for Southeast Queens, and we have 44 projects that are underway now. But we know with climate that we can't simply just say Southeast Queens anymore, because it's whack-a-mole when we wake up in the morning now. You don't know if it's going to be Flushing, Peck Avenue. We don't know if it's going to be East Elmhurst. So we continue to focus heavily on infrastructure in light of Washington, D.C., cutting a lot of our federal dollars as well. So to borrow today's title, there are too many big things happening here in Queens. And I still have more I could talk about, by the way. This was the shortened version of the speech. And I will end with saying, but none are bigger than the construction of the Van Wyck, ending in September. I've told people, if the construction doesn't end in September, don't vote for me. But I'm not on the ballot. But in all seriousness, we will have finally an HOV lane that runs straight into the airport. So we will now separate out community from individuals going into JFK, and that is going to be a big deal. In the meantime, I will try not to get stuck on the Van Wyck on heading home, but congratulations to all of you for making this happen, and to the panelists who've all been a part of this journey as well. Thank you all for having me. Queens get the money, and let's go Knicks.
Good morning. Is it working? It's so great to be here today. Thank you so much to the Borough President for your really inspiring remarks. Thank you to Ben Max and Katie Honan. And thank you to the New York Law School for hosting us. My name is Maya Handa, and I am the World Cup Czar of New York City. Primary responsibilities include meeting up with Tom Grech at events throughout the city. No, but in all seriousness, in 2022, my job was that I was a substitute winger for then Assemblymember Mamdani's rec soccer team. And that kicked off a journey that has wound up with us being where we are today. And in reality, what that has meant has been me getting a firsthand look at the mayor's love for the city and his love for Queens and his focus on affordability. And that has been really what has anchored all of our World Cup plans so far. So many of you have seen over the past couple of months all of our rollouts related to the World Cup. And there's one I want to highlight before I get into kind of Queens in particular, and that is the 1,000 affordable tickets to the World Cup. One of the first things that the mayor said when we met after my appointment was that the World Cup needs to be affordable and accessible to all New Yorkers. And that doesn't just mean in the city and all the activations that we are planning, which I'll speak about, but it also means the joy of soccer, and it means the way it brings people together, and it means being in the stands. And so that was something that was hugely important from us from day one, was securing affordable tickets for New Yorkers. So we are so proud to be the only host city across the entire of North America, Mexico, Canada, and the US to have secured those 1,000 affordable tickets, making sure that New Yorkers will get to go to the games and be in the stands for about 1/5 of the price of anyone else. And now I'll talk about Queens. So the mayor's vision for this World Cup is affordable, accessible, and a joyful celebration of our city. In this moment, more than ever, it becomes incredibly important to celebrate our immigrant and diaspora communities in every borough and in every neighborhood. And the mayor, as everyone knows, loves Queens. It is the world's borough, the most diverse and international place in the world, and the former cherished home of the mayor. The world will be coming to New York City, but New Yorkers can travel the world in a day by spending it in Queens, and we want to make that very, very clear to everyone who enters our city. Visiting New York City is not just about visiting Times Square or the Empire State Building. It's also about spending an afternoon in Flushing, trying food from 6 different countries, and then taking the 7 to Jackson Heights for an evening watching the Columbia game and drinking aguilas in a crowded venue. What makes New York amazing is that this is the whole world in one place, and nowhere exemplifies that better than Queens. The mayor often talks about how those of us who live in the city only live in our familiar slivers. The World Cup is an opportunity to go to places you've never been, or become a visitor in your own city, discover new restaurants, bars, museums, right? This is not just about tourists. This is about making sure that New Yorkers can also explore their city with the World Cup as an excuse. So with that, I'll talk a little bit about our initiatives. One of the marquee projects that we launched is a cultural passport that is going to encourage and incentivize tourists and locals to explore the city. So we want more people to see the outer boroughs, to try places that they otherwise would not. Unsurprisingly, a disproportionate amount of passport locations are within Queens's varied and vibrant neighborhoods. So what that means is we have this physical cultural passport, and it's going to be available in every single public library in New York City across the 5 boroughs, as well as hundreds of cultural institutions. And you can go and pick it up, and then it'll have pages, it'll have a map of the city's ethnic enclaves, many of which are in Queens, and it will encourage residents and visitors alike to go and collect 10 different stamps on their passports that can be found at these cultural institutions, libraries, ethnic enclaves designed by New York City-based artists of immigrant descent. And the goal here is this physical document can allow folks to have this amazing summer chasing across the 5 boroughs, particularly in Queens, what makes New York City great. The mayor also loves great food. So it should be obvious why he loves Queens. And we recently created a 5-borough $26 deal as part of the World Cup that over 500 restaurants and bars across the city have signed up for. The mayor celebrated the launch of this program eating excellent food at the locally owned Tacos Don Jose in Corona, Queens, and there should be more coming on that. But we are so excited about this because what this means again is that as visitors come and as residents are celebrating throughout the summer, they will be able to get a $26 deal at so many restaurants and bars across our city, making that amazing food scene of the city accessible to so many people. And now I want to talk about soccer. So for our Soccer Streets initiative, one of the key pieces, again, of the mayor's agenda of affordability, accessibility, and the secret agenda of making every New Yorker a soccer fan and player, we talk a lot about how we want a World Cup player to have gotten their start playing soccer on the streets under the Mamdani administration. So stay tuned for that. Everybody check in about 18 years. We have our Soccer Streets program, which we announced, which is going to bring street soccer to over 50 schools in New York City across the 5 boroughs. So what that means is that these schools are going to take advantage of the Open Streets program, which allows their streets outside of the schools to be car-free. And we are going to put on a street soccer field day with games, toys, drills for kids who don't like soccer yet. They're going to be able to make, color in flags of their countries, celebrate the city in different ways. Next week, we're going to be turning 100th Street and 40th Road in Corona into a day of joy and exercise for kids. A few days later, we're going to be doing the same in St. Albans. And the idea is it's just going to expose kids to the fun and excitement of street soccer, because long after the tournament ends, you never know how many young New Yorkers will reflect on this moment as their first exposure to the game. Again, we are looking for the Queens-born Messi, so please keep an eye out. This is very, very important to us. And it's just important because soccer brings people together. It might take them to college. It might allow them to exercise, have fun, or meet lifelong friends. We're also making legacy investments, right? Many that we look forward to announcing as the tournament progresses, so that this World Cup is a foundation for the soccer infrastructure and transit infrastructure that a global city like New York might need and has needed for so long. I also want to just call out that we are bringing the party to Flushing Meadows, so really, really appreciate the folks. I actually want to give them a round of applause. Can you raise your hands who have helped make this possible at Flushing Meadows? Thank you. We are so, so, so excited about this. From June 11th to June 27th, during the knockout stages of the World Cup, USTA is going to be the group stage fan zone for the FIFA official fan fests. And that means that while only about 78,000 people will be able to actually attend games in New Jersey, so many thousands more are going to be able to watch the games in Queens. And one of the things that we said in our conversations with the host committee from day one of this administration was that that needs to be free. Right. And you know, under the prior administration, the fan fests were going to cost $10. And one of the first things we said was, in New York City, everyone needs to be able to celebrate the beautiful game for free. So we're so, so excited for this event to happen in Queens. It's going to be a free fan fest for thousands of locals, tourists, and others from other boroughs who might just want to kind of celebrate the World Cup in Queens. And I want to talk briefly about kind of our transit infrastructure. So we want to minimize disruptions this summer while also leaving a lasting infrastructure that the city can benefit from. That's why it's crucial that the World Cup is not an annoyance for Queens residents. We are very, very excited to have announced an express bus lane on Roosevelt Avenue to speed up commute times and save many, many hours stuck in traffic for tens of thousands of commuters. That's also going to benefit folks who are coming to and from the airport using public transit. So we're very excited about that. We've also expanded ferry service this summer to the highest level in the history of New York. One of those ferries is proudly decorated in honor of Queens, so keep an eye out. And I just spoke with Ben from the British consulate, but we are very excited to be working with the host committee and consulates from different countries and tourism boards from different countries, also on a project that's going to celebrate through the MTA different kind of countries competing in the World Cup, and we should have an announcement on that in the next day or two, so get very excited about that. So much to talk about, so much related to the World Cup, and so much about celebrating the best of what Queens has to offer and ensuring that folks go there, they spend their money, they explore the city, they meet residents, they talk to folks, and they make new friends. Everything that we are doing bigger in Queens. This borough is a microcosm of the world and its beauty, and the mayor and I have both felt the love from Queens, and we plan to continue reciprocating it. Please expect more projects, innovations, and support in the coming days, but also the next many years. And we're so excited to hear all the investments and programs that the panelists are working on. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Borough President Richards. Thank you, Maya Handa. Another round of applause for our opening speakers. And if our panel could come on up, please, and join us. Take a look at where your name card is, because we don't have the names on the other side of them. So. And a reminder, in, I don't know, half an hour, we'll take some audience questions. So get those ready as you're listening to this conversation, and looking forward to hearing from our next set of featured guests here. Hi, everybody. So we're just going to start with kind of introductions and opening statements, your sort of mini version of what you just heard from our two speakers there. If we could just maybe just go down the line from next to Katie here, Anthony. If everybody would just take 2 minutes, please, and introduce yourself and just say a little bit about maybe the biggest thing or biggest things you're working on in Queens.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Thank you to the New York Law School for hosting this wonderful event. Thank you to our borough president for his amazing keynote on everything, seemingly everything that's going on in Queens, but really there is so much more. My name's Anthony Sama. I'm the executive director for the Alliance for Flushing Meadows Corona Park. I also serve as administrator for Flushing Meadows Corona Park with the Parks Department. I'm excited to be here today to celebrate and discuss all the things that are happening in the borough. In particular, obviously a bit biasly, I am very excited about the changes coming to Flushing Meadows and the greater area. Of course, you know, as the borough president alluded to, specifically, I'm excited for the new neighborhoods that we're going to have springing up across the street in the Willets Point district. You know, 2,500 affordable housing units will bring a whole new community to Flushing Meadows Corona Park, and really excited to serve them and continuing to serve the communities that surround our park. Especially the ones represented by the councilwoman to my right in District 20, and really excited for her passion and for all the other projects that the Alliance is working on, specifically Vision 2050, Roadmap to the Future of Flushing Meadows Corona Park, in the work to develop a new master plan for Flushing Meadows Corona Park. As many of you may know, the park was built in 39 for the World's Fair then, and then 64, 65, but the world has changed drastically since then. And it is time to think about Flushing Meadows Corona Park and the future that it's going to serve our communities as a part of the framework that the new Etihad Park and the casino will bring to that area. So excited for that work in particular, and excited to talk with the rest of the panel this morning about everything that they're working on to help support us and in conjunction with the borough.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Oh gosh, are y'all still asleep? I just drove an hour and 15 minutes from Queens. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
That's much better. So I am Council Member Shanel Thomas Henry. I have the honor and privilege of representing the 21st Council District in Queens, representing Corona, East Elmhurst, Jackson Heights, and Left Rack City. So I know my borough president is here, and although I missed his remarks, I know he is no stranger to making sure that the borough of Queens, the world's borough, the best borough, is well represented. And arguably, I want to say I probably have the best district in Queens.
Yes.
So I have the best airport 2 years in a row in LaGuardia Airport. I have Citi Field where the Mets play. I have the USTA Billie Jean Theater and Stadium and all the works. I have the future home of soccer. I have a brand new community in Willets Point. I have the Queens Zoo, the Queens Museum, the Hall of Science, the Queens Theater, and so much more. And my job is to make sure that all of you learn and know the value of Flushing Meadows Corona Park. So I am new to government. I've been in this role for 5 months. But I'm not new to business. So having come off the $8 billion LaGuardia Airport project that was done on time and on budget, I am not one to hear that projects will start 8 years from now. I'm one to see that projects start and finish 8 years from now. So I'm very excited about this conversation. And so we can talk about the resources that we are finally going to put into the 4th largest park in New York City that it really deserves.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeanny Peck, the interim CEO and president of EDC. And thank you to the borough president for some really fantastic remarks. But more importantly, I am a 20-year resident of Queens. I have 3 children raised in Queens pre-K through 12. My kids went to PS 101, then Russell Sage, where we one day counted how many languages were in their respective classrooms, about like 23 to 30. It was just unbelievable and shows you the beauty and remarkability of Queens and raising your kids in Queens. It's just the most diverse, exciting neighborhood. And then my youngest one graduated from Forest Hills High School. So I'm Queens through and through. And just to give you a little bit about EDC, I'm not sure if everyone's familiar. EDC works on behalf of the mayor. It's not a city agency. It's a nonprofit, but we work under a contract through the city, and we work on behalf of the mayor and the administration for all of sort of the mayoral priorities. We manage and operate and invest in 224 assets, 64 million square feet. We run the NYC ferries. And how I like to describe EDC is that we're sort of like a city within a city, meaning like we have the expertise in-house that replicates a lot of multiple city agencies. So we have a real estate transactions team, we have a land use neighborhood strategies team, we have a capital construction team, we have equity community impact, we run NYC ferries, we have innovation industries that really promote programs for green economy, life sci, AI, tech, and we have a business development team that works to retain businesses and grow businesses here and attract businesses here. So, I mean, there's many more things we do, but that just gives you an overview of what we do. And so one of the premier projects that we are working on and have worked on for decades is Willets Point. So I'm really looking forward to, hopefully you're asking me a question about it so I can get more into it. But it's been a phenomenal project and we love Queens. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Russell. I'm the co-founder of the Governor's Ball Music Festival, which is taking place in 2 days, I believe, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in the wonderful Flushing Meadows Corona Park. Gov Ball, as we commonly call it, is New York City's longest running and largest music festival. And we've been in Queens since 2022 and Flushing Meadows Corona Park since 2023. We consider ourselves lucky as all hell to be in Flushing Meadows Corona Park. It is an incredible, incredible place. And our first year there, we were shocked to see that the park didn't receive really anything from the rent that we pay to the city each year. It just goes into the general fund. So the first thing we did was talk to Anthony and the Alliance, and we set up a system where $1 of every ticket would go directly to the Alliance. We also made it a big part of our organization to work closely with local nonprofits to give back. So folks can volunteer their time at local nonprofits in order to earn a free ticket to the event. And we also give them a financial donation each year. We work closely with the borough president in his office to identify important organizations. And we work with folks like Shia CDC, ECRC Common Point, and the Flushing Meadows Corona Park Alliance. We work with outside organizations from outside of Queens, such as Headcount, Planned Parenthood, Everytown, and many others. And that nonprofit part of the festival, which is called GovBall Gives Back, has really been a cornerstone of the event. We always want to be great partners to the park and to Queens. We take over the park for a considerable amount of time. We do so in stages so as to not displace park users. And we make it work for everybody. So the Queens Theater, the Queens Museum, the Hall of Science, everybody's benefiting from us being there. We're renting out their space. We're making sure that they're making more money than they would if we weren't there. And we're making sure that any operational impact is a positive one. So we feel very lucky to be in Queens, and we have great partnerships with the city, with the borough president, with the Parks Department, with everybody. And we hope to be here for a very long time and give back as much as possible.
Good morning, all. My name is Tom Grech. I have the privilege and the honor of running the Queens Chamber of Commerce. Before I go any further, there's an expression about sometimes you want to be lucky as well as good. I got to give props to my younger brother over here, Donovan Richards. He's a lot of both. He's very, very lucky. Things happening great, but he's really, really good. So got to give him a shout and a prop. Thanks very much for all you do. So when it comes to Queens, we have a three-pronged initiative. It's called Tourism, Tech, and International. On the tourism front, you heard it all, right? I've also served on the board of the Alliance for Flushing Meadows. We're the place to be. No offense to my wife's borough, which is Brooklyn, but they kind of had their time. It's crested, and now it's Queens' time. It just is. If you look at the numbers, right? $40 billion of investments and so on. And the technology front, I usually start my conversations on tech with like a down note by saying that Valentine's Day 2019 was the saddest day of my professional life. Amazon was here and Amazon pulled out, right? So the past is prologue, but I look at it as we had all the tools that Amazon thought amongst 283 applicants that could support that environment. So today I'm happy to tell you we have a Queens Tech Council with 6 Queens tech incubators located throughout the borough, Rockaway, Jamaica, Queens College, soon to be in Bayside. That'll be the 7th one. Those 6 tech incubators have 24 tech startups that are 78% minority women owned. I don't pick them. We have a bunch of people that apply, and then we have people from Amazon, Google, and so on, vet them for potentials of actually growing and being successful. And we're also trying to raise a bunch of money to actually fund them and also ongoing programs. So Queens right now is a great spot. I'm also sitting in the right spot because I got to follow the soccer czar back to Queens to do a kickoff in a little while for restaurant activation, where we're going to have a program with all the restaurants in Queens. So when Colombia plays whatever, we're going to have an event at all the Colombian restaurants, and then Uruguay and Paraguay, you name it. We're going to have, for the first 72 matches, tons of different events, and we're kicking that off today with the soccer czar as well as the mom and pop czar for small business. So thanks for having me, and thanks for the seating.
Sure. Whenever you need to depart, just do so.
Thank you.
We have sort of a general question for everyone, and I should note, Tom, I think the Amazon HQ2 in Arlington didn't actually end up even building as much, so you shouldn't be so sad about it. Maybe
It's building.
maybe it'll
It ain't here.
diminish it. So there is a lot happening in Queens, as we all discussed. Would each of you, and we'll start with you, Anthony, take a minute or two, or maybe a minute, just for the interest of time, to talk about what you're specifically focused on in terms of a broad, diverse array of making sure that a broad, diverse array of Queens residents have access and opportunity to all of these things we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, thank you, Katie, for the question. I think, obviously, my focus being on Flushing Meadows Corona Park, it aligns pretty nicely with the mayor's affordability initiatives. What's more affordable than free and open space? And so it's important to me, the top priority to me as administrator and as the Alliance Executive Director is to advocate for accessibility for Flushing Meadows Corona Park. Those of you, unfamiliar with the park, we are framed by highways, the Grand Central to our west, the Van Wyck to our east, and the Whitestone Expressway and Long Island Expressway that bisect us, which can create really disparate ways that the communities that rely on our park can access them. So thinking about ways not only to make their accessibility easier, but also educate them about all the great things that happen within Flushing Meadows Corona Park, all the amazing amenities, many of which are free, that they have access to. A lot of which were mentioned by the borough president earlier: the museum, the theater, the Hall of Science, our aquatic center, an ice skating rink, a pitch and putt golf course. So many concessionaires and great stakeholders who exist in Flushing Meadows Corona Park. And my goal on the Alliance is to not only, help make sure that the park is represented correctly, but so also those stakeholders. Everybody benefits when the park benefits. Right? A rising tide lifts all boats. So as the Alliance Executive Director, advocating for the fundraising that the park needs to repair our infrastructure, to ensure that the communities that rely on our park have a park to rely on for the next 80 years. If those of you who are familiar with the flood maps know that climate resilience has a possibility of really deteriorating much of the city, especially Flushing Meadows Corona Park, which is built on such a high water table. So in addition to accessibility, stewarding these spaces in the next generation of climate resilience is paramount to our goal to protect our communities and protect the amenities that they so heavily rely on.
So I would say my goal with anything happening in the community benefits. So I'm gonna take a step back to the $8 billion redevelopment of LaGuardia Airport. For me, it was important that this type of economic activity that came into a community benefited all the residents in some shape, form, or fashion. And that's everyone from youth through adults. So we created things in partnership with the Port Authority and other partners, like STEM programs for young kids to be able to learn for free. We did a free summer camp for kids. We created a scholarship program for high school students throughout the community to go to school for free for 4 years, no debt, paid internship each summer, and then they were guaranteed a job after graduation so they could both benefit, get an education, earn money, and then earn a living and stay in the community that they were raised in. And we, before that other airport on the other side of Queens, we had awarded over $2.2 billion in contracts to minority and women businesses, creating a pipeline for our most vulnerable businesses to really create and build capacity for their businesses. And as we're looking at projects coming online, like the casino, what's built into that is affordable housing. So we're looking at all affordable units for local residents. We're looking at a healthcare facility to take care of our community was the epicenter of COVID. Yet and still in one part of the district, we have no true healthcare facility in the district. So it's thinking about what the needs of the community are. And when we have these large infrastructure projects in our backyard, how can we work together to make sure that the community gets what they need? And I wanted to commend you, Tom, I love you to death, but Tom Russell, for recognizing that you were in a community and you took it upon yourself to give back to that community. And I want to say that should be the model for any business that comes into a community, to say, look, we want to be a part of the community. We want to help invest in the resources of this community. So really, I do want to commend you for that. Thank you.
Jeannie?
Thank you. I think this is a good time to talk about Willets Point, if I could. So for decades, this has been something that EDC and the city has been working on. And from the start, we had deep community engagement and partnership with the Queens Community Boards 7, 3, and 4, multiple task force with community members, and it also spanned multiple mayoral administrations and elected officials. So it was over time and also, surrounding the community. It's building a new neighborhood. So there was so much at stake here. If everybody remember, this is the Valley of the Ashes where there are tons of chop shops. We had to do an immense amount of environmental remediation and basic infrastructure, build streets, sewers, et cetera, electricity. And so what does this look like? What is this going to look like? It's a total of 23 acres. It's going to have 2,400 all affordable housing, of which 220 are senior affordable housing. 800, I think it was mentioned already, 880 units have opened up and residents are moving in. It's going to have like a 25,000 seat, all electric soccer specific stadium. What does this do for this community? This was privately financed, but what was really important for us in building out this partnership, it's a public-private partnership with the building of the stadium, is that it had community benefits, because lots of times stadiums are only open for game days, and we wanted to ensure that this stadium was available for the community even on non-match days. So it's going to have a food hall with local vendors and restaurants coming in there that's going to be available for regular hours. It's going to have a lot of soccer activity for kids and programs for neighborhood kids throughout the Queens area. And it's going to have a lot of community events and activities all on non-match days. There's going to be 1,000 square foot of open space, 650 seat public school is going to go in there. There's going to be, so also what was really important for us is that these are union jobs for the constructions. 4,000 union jobs are building the entire stadium and hotel. There's going to be 1,550 permanent union jobs. And so the whole neighborhood is created to ensure, and all the streetscapes, everything, the bike lanes, et cetera, it's going to build an entire community. But it was important for the overall community, Queens community, to have input in sort of what they want and sort of the makeup of it. So it's a real remarkable success story for a massive generational development, but also a really positive public-private partnership.
And we're going to talk them into getting the other 40 acres so we can build more.
When we started GovBall back in 2011, we always viewed ourselves as wanting to be partners with the city and partners with the borough, the venue, the community in which we were in. I'm proud to say that last year in Queens, GovBall generated over $100 million in economic impact, which hits the restaurants, the hotels, the local businesses in a major, major way. Going beyond the economic impact, whether that's $1 per ticket to the Alliance, a financial donation to the nonprofits, we also work locally with organizations to benefit them. An example of that is something new we're doing this year with the City College of New York, where we did a program called GovBall University. We had multiple sessions where we educated a group of 25 students about the industry of music festivals, the job opportunities in music festivals. We had multiple seminars online. And then in person, just yesterday, we had a 5-hour session where we brought each student around to the different departments of the festival. They spoke with production managers, marketing managers, city officials, others, and learned about all of the facets of the industry. Maybe we could inspire them. Maybe we could educate them on opportunities and just get them excited. And we thought that was a really good opportunity. We also work with NYU to do a similar program. And we just try to listen to our partners, whether that's Anthony, whether that's Borough President, whether that's the Mayor's office. If folks call us and they say, we want you to explore this, we want you to do that, we want you to do more. It's a conversation, right? We're partners with the city, and we just want to give back as much as we can and try to grow this thing in a way that everybody benefits.
Just dovetail on that. So, the jobs component is huge, and the fact that majority that we're talking about are all union jobs are one thing, but beyond that, it's the more lasting careers that are going to help with generational wealth. To me, that's the most important part. Jobs are transactional. They're great. People want to be able to have a paycheck for the duration of a project. But when those careers kick in, whether it's at Resorts World or what's going to happen at Metropolitan Park, or even the things going on over at the USTA, those are things that are really important. Just to give you some size and scale, I know everybody's learning a lot about what's going on in Queens. If we were a city, we'd be the 4th largest city in America. We're bigger than 15 states. There's 3,068 counties in America. We're the #1 diverse by far. And #2, for you Brooklyn people, it ain't Brooklyn, it's Miami-Dade, just so you know. But again, those kind of things are really important and telling. The 2020 census came out. We have the most vibrant Asian community, the most vibrant so-called Chinatown. I mean, Flushing, if you go by downtown Flushing, it's like you're in a foreign country, right? The development that's gone on over there is just remarkable. And part of my job as the guy that runs the chamber and to keep the small mom and pops in business is not just a real, I wouldn't even want to call it a trickle down, but it's a grow up type of thing where these small mom and pops can, in fact, get some traction. I got to give props to the administration when Mayor-elect Mondami met with the 5 chambers of commerce. We had 3 requests. 2 of the 3 are done. The first one was do a 90-day cease and cessation of all small business fines, except for health and safety. And then also pick a mom and pop czar. Have somebody that goes right to you without any BS regarding DOT or DOB or all the alphabet city. And he did 2 of the 3 in EO 11, so he gets credit for that. The third one was not the most popular one in the world. All 5 chambers, myself included, I do, I don't know, a dozen or more ribbon cuttings a month. That's all great. That's all good. But we're not measuring across the city of New York closings. Like they closed. Why? Well, the landlord, it was too high. It's not just the landlord. Trust me, it's not just the landlord. We hear it all the time. Those are the kind of things that are going to bring our city up. Queens especially, because we have so many small mom and pops, but that's a positive direction and a positive thing. But the rules and regulations cessation is a huge piece of that puzzle. If Mama's Empanadas misses the chicken empanada for $2.50, it's off. It's a $500 fine. How's it helping our economy at all, right? And that's going on for 30 years or longer, right? So he's taken a measure, the current mayor, to kind of look at and trying to figure it out, and so we're encouraged by that. That's a good thing for our growth. It's a really good thing for our growth.
We're going to kick it off to the individual questions, and I do want to start with you, Tom. Be mindful of your return back to Queens.
Thank you.
Queens will at one point we have 2 airports, and we could potentially. I know there's a court case today, but we could potentially have 2 casinos in Queens. And obviously, some people were opposed to the casinos in both locations. But I want to know from you, from a business perspective, how are you ensuring that everything that was promised to get these casinos, particularly with Metropolitan Park, everything that they promised the community, how are you ensuring that those promises actually come to fruition and that it doesn't start with a casino and then things kind of get whittled down through whatever reason?
That's a great question. I love answering that because they signed a binding $1 billion community benefit statement. And I didn't read all the fine print, but I've heard it from the Gaming Commission. They will not get a license to do business until those conditions are met. Right? Going to rebuild the 7-train line. They're going to build a Queens food court, a whole bunch of different programs and processes, but they will not get the golden ticket until all those things are met. So I have a lot of confidence in the state holding them accountable to that. And that's a really, really important part of the project and an important part of the puzzle. They've also made a vow, and I'm not anti-Chipotle, I'm not anti-Starbucks, but they made a vow of no chains in that Queens food hall. So, for example, we got Chitty's Cheesesteak, which came from Long Island. They've been serving cheesesteaks. They opened up at City Field, and now they're over in Astoria. Dawn Kelly from the Nourish Spot got her start at City Field. Then Danny in the USTA. Now she's in Terminal 8. I mean, these are small mom and pops that have nothing going on. Near's Tavern, I got the invitation that Near's Tavern, which is in danger of closing, is going to be in T8, right? So those kind of commitments to small businesses, it can't be lip service because in this day and age, we got to hold them all accountable to that kind of stuff. And we do.
One more on the casinos, Tom, while we have you. I understanding that these are both going to be multifaceted, as the borough president was talking about, but do you feel confident there's a market for casino activity for two casinos that sort of close together? I mean, how do you sort of assess that, and what steps are you taking or thinking about that need to be taken around ensuring that these are successful? We've seen casinos struggle in other parts of the state. That's not New York City, obviously, but how are you thinking about sort of the market for gaming?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I look at it as when I do my narrative about the casinos, I mentioned the fourth largest city, bigger than 15 states, because the mass and the scope is there, right? I think the opportunity is huge. There are people that are developing both Genting out of Malaysia, which is Resorts World, and Hard Rock, which has got 170 locations globally. This is not their first rodeo, right? They made some strong commitments that I know the community, the borough president, the governor's office via the gaming commission, they're going to hold them accountable for it. They would not go into this if they weren't going to be able to make some money and have an impact in the community. It's a really, really important part, and they really are transformative, both of those locations, right? Next up's going to be, there's some things going on, discussions about they're closing Aqueduct end of this month, beginning of next, right? 100 acres worth probably $1 billion. What's going to go there, right? That was why when Senator Leroy Comrie asked me to support the bond issue for Belmont Racetrack, I'm like, but Senator, that's not in Queens. He's like, Tom, understand the big picture. So that's going to open up in the next year. We're going to miss one more Belmont Stakes up in Saratoga, and that's going to be the center of horse racing, for example, in our county, in our region, and then Aqueduct's going to get redeveloped. Things happen, things evolve, things change, but I'm very, very confident that both of those opportunities will be very, very good for the community, good for the county and the state. I mean, Resorts World, I went to the grand opening. The borough president was there. I'm a baseball guy, so my analogies are always baseball. I went there in the morning, and I saw a video of the last scene in Field of Dreams, the cars going to the field. That was 2:00 in the morning, going to Resorts World. It was packed. The market is there. People want to do it. And Resorts World also is the biggest taxpayer in the state of New York. And I'm sure Metropolitan Park and Hard Rock will be right up there with them.
I wanted to ask a question, and thank you for that, Tom.
You're welcome.
Jeannie, you got through all the Willets Point stuff, so we can ask you, do you have an update on the massive project at Sunnyside Yard and how that might be going?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think people know that EDC put together a master plan that came out literally March of 2020. So, we all know what happened after that. But it was an extensive master plan that we'd worked on for a few years on that with tons of community engagement. The first step of 1,000 steps is, restarting this was a Mayor Mamdani meeting with Trump on potential federal support for this projects, because it is going to be quite expensive. If everybody knows about this, it's putting a rail yard over the Amtrak and part Amtrak and part MTA rail yard there, and then building on top of it. And so under Mamdani's priorities, affordability agenda, affordable housing is top on the list, and this would provide about 12,000 units of housing, along with a host of other things, and you can look up our master plan. But it is really just the very initial step, and so we're looking forward to seeing what happens, but it will require federal support.
And the borough president mentioned the IBX development. Does EDC have any role in thinking about how to take advantage of that? I mean, obviously, the Department of City Planning is working on transit-oriented development, so that's a key piece of the puzzle moving forward. Does EDC have a role in thinking about that?
We don't have a direct role. We work with DOT because we also have a lot of assets in Brooklyn and Sunset Park. So Brooklyn Army Terminal, all of those assets are related to IBX, but we're not directly involved in it. We are involved in Queensway though, so yeah, we're excited about that. We are building that in Forest Park.
Yeah, and what's your view on the Queensway, Queens Link balance there? I mean, seems like Queens Link would be a broader economic development project, but how do you think about that? I know Mayor Mamdani was just asked about this.
Yeah.
And
So
nothing is precluding.
I don't know what he said, but what we advised him was that building Queensway does not preclude Queens Link from happening in the future. Queens Link is an MTA decision, and that is going to require tons of capital investment. So it's not going to stop it, but so we're going to accommodate it, but it's a long-term, very expensive project by the MTA.
The caller who asked him that question did not seem convinced by his answer. Brian Larry yesterday. She's Mars from Southeast Queens. We'll kick it to you, Tom. Right, sorry, Tom
The
Russell,
remaining
the
Tom.
remaining Tom.
And thank you, Tom Grech, for your time.
Tom
Thanks.
Grech.
Yep.
So Tom Russell, just what data do you have on where GovBall attendees are coming from? And then I wanted to ask a follow-up about, the deal you've struck to ensure that money goes back in Queens, because I know a lot of other events in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, we don't know generally. I know Danny's Austin is here from the US Open. I often question how much of that actually sees in Queens as opposed to the general fund. So if you want to talk about the attendees, and then any thoughts you might have for making all the other tenants of Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, maybe does something similar.
Sure. So we'll do 120,000 people over the 3 days of GovBall this weekend. We sell the majority of our tickets in Queens County, and it wasn't always that way. We used to sell most of our tickets in Manhattan. And then when we moved to Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, that shifted, and it continues to become a bigger segment of our ticket buyer demo each year, which we're super thrilled about. I'm also proud to say that GovBall is the most diverse music festival in the world. And I think that's indicative of Queens as the borough, but it's also super cool to have a festival that embodies the Queens culture. We found out that the money that we pay rent to New York City wasn't going to the park just by asking questions. I think I asked Anthony, hey, Anthony, how much of this money is going back to the park? And he said, Tom, none of it. It all goes in the general fund. And I thought that was ridiculous. It's not right. And New York City is a unique place. Every park has an alliance or a conservancy with a different deal with the city of New York. And it all is very complicated. It's well above my pay grade. But it didn't make sense to me that an event that was having such an operational impact on the park wasn't directly financially benefiting the park. So we set up this super simple system to give money back, which is essentially committing $1 a ticket at minimum to the alliance. Last year, we donated more than $1 a ticket. Because we did well financially and it felt like the right thing to do. And if we're ever lucky enough to be in that opportunity, we'll continue to do that. We like to keep things simple on our end. That's why $1 a ticket just kind of made sense. It has a ring to it. And we think that should be a model for everyone, right? It's not too much money, $1 a ticket. And, I'm going to make some enemies by saying this, but there are a lot of folks out there that could donate $1 a ticket to their games. And whether it's an add-on to the consumer, so be it. People would pay it if they know it's going to a great, great cause. And a lot of money could be generated. I think other promoters around the city have followed this model. I know that Under the K has a lot of events and they follow a similar model. There was a great article written over the weekend in the Times about that. It's just a simple way to give back. And, the park needs funding and parks continues to not get that 1% of the city budget. So it's on these public-private partnerships to find a way to make that work.
100% of the honeydew sales should go back to Queens. What do you say about that? He's shaking his head, yes.
Then I gotta look into these honeydew sales.
Council member, we've heard a bit. I'll let you finish your note.
I'm the honeydew.
No, I know you got to follow. You got stuff to hold oversight hearings on here. We've heard a bit about different major projects ensuring access for small businesses and not necessarily prioritizing chains and things like that. We heard Tom Grech talk about some of how Mayor Mamdani, the asks around small businesses. Are there other things you're thinking about related to small businesses in Queens, legislation, oversight hearings, other priorities you have around small business in the borough and in your district?
For small businesses in particular, I'm always looking at how we can help them not just survive this climate, but to grow and thrive. So I would say, taking a step back, one of the things that both myself and the Speaker of the City Council, as well as the administration, have been committed to is looking at the fines that the city does give to small businesses. So to Tom's point earlier, where it's not like dire or a health concern or something, then it should be a warning, right? It shouldn't always be a fine. I just introduced a bill for our restaurants that want to do outdoor dining to allow them to pay quarterly versus paying upfront. Because as it currently stands, if you want to do outdoor dining, you have to pay an upfront fee, which again is hard for a small business, especially in a time when they're not generating those extra sales from the outdoor dining. So it's an upfront cost that is usually a burden or hindrance for them even doing the outdoor dining. So we just introduced that recently. And I would say we're being very proactive. There's another bill that was slated to go into effect next month with roll down gates. So I'm hosting a hearing on Monday to prevent that from, well, to amend that so that it doesn't go into effect the way it is. So it's really looking at what's going on in our business environment and being proactive to making sure that our businesses can grow. When we talk about things, I have a lot of street vendors in my district. I have Corona Plaza in my district, which is a great place. We have the Queens Night Market. Oh my God, don't I have so many amazing things in my district? But these are seasonal businesses, right? So in terms, and I would have to give kudos to the borough president, when Metropolitan Park was coming, he mentioned this and was like, why don't we build a Queens food hall? So in addition to that, we're looking at other areas in the district to do something like a La Marqueta or something where these businesses that you can't be profitable year round because of inclement weather or what have you, where can we host them where they can continue to benefit and grow? We're looking at different types of rent stabilization programs for businesses. So it's really about how do we help our businesses grow when there is an affordable crisis across the city of New York.
Thank you. I think Katie might have one more question for our panelists, but I am going to invite people to start coming up to the mics. I'm also going to invite the borough president to come take this empty seat up here and join us for the Q&A, for the audience Q&A. You stuck around, so now you get to face the audience questions. Just very quickly before Katie might have a final question, I don't think there's a Queens location for a city-run grocery store.
No, not yet.
Is there?
But we invite you. We invite you all. We have a private site portal open on, you can look it up for owners to submit their site. It's got to be a certain size, kind of be ready so that you can open up the store by the end of 2029. So there's some requirements, a simple form. We invite everyone to submit if you have a site or tell your friends.
And if you missed that, that's for the Mamdani administration city-run grocery stores in each.
NYC Groceries.
Do you have
run groceries?
anything you want to?
Oh, the final question for Anthony. You're the shepherd of this. You're the protector of this large park, the largest in Queens, that has so much going on in it. How do you balance and ensure the balance to make sure that these major events happening, regular Queens residents can actually still utilize their park, especially a lot of these happen at the peak of summer and so much of the green space is taken for these private events. How do you balance that?
Yeah, thanks, Katie. That's a great question. Before I respond to that, though, I just want to respond a little bit to what's been said about community benefits. And it's all been great, and not to diminish the great work that's being done on our transit hubs, on healthcare, on affordable housing. Do you guys know how much money is coming to the Parks Department related to the developments happening around Flushing Meadows Corner Park? Not a dollar. Not a single dollar. Okay? So more important than making sure we're a home for all these amazing dynamic opportunities and affordable opportunities for our communities, it's about investing in the maintenance of them too. Open space is vital, and we need to make sure that it's available to everybody for years to come. The only way to do that is to properly invest in infrastructure like the Parks Department. And so I just want to say that before I respond to you, but great question on that. It's very difficult. There's been a lot of attention on Flushing Meadows Corner Park over the last few years. We are lucky to have partners such as Tom who see the value in the park and want to do their part to invest in the future of the park. But working closely with the Parks Department, also ensuring there are certain guardrails so that we don't lose control, right? That the floodgates don't open and the park becomes completely used for private uses, for pay-to-play uses. So working with the Parks Department, we developed rules to ensure that we were only allowed to do certain size events a few times a year, because parks are for people. And we do want to make sure that we're maintaining as much of the park as possible. Flushing Meadows is a huge place, 880 acres, fourth largest park in New York City, bigger than Central Park, bigger than Prospect Park. For those of you who don't know, I see some eyebrows getting raised. That's true. But you know, as big as the park is, if you come to the park on a Saturday or Sunday, every square inch of grass is covered with people recreating, barbecuing with their families, playing volleyball, playing equivolley, playing soccer, you know, having their kids ride their bikes, learning how to ride their bikes, taking photo shoots for quinceañeras and other memorable moments in people's lives. These parks, these open spaces are the lifeblood of our city, part of the lifeblood of our city, and need to be invested as such. And my job is to make sure that we maintain that balance the best we can through these types of guardrails. Certainly, Tom has supported some of those guardrails, not others, but it's striking a balance with partners like Tom who understand the role that the parks play and want to be collaborative and creative on coming to a solution while also investing in this amazing space.
Just you mentioned the floodgates, which I want to remind everyone that Flushing Meadows Corner Park is in a flood zone, which we saw during Hurricane Ida, where I think 19 of the 21 rescues made by police in Queens were at the U.S. Open of visitors and I guess people who got in flooded Ubers trying to leave. So we have infrastructure needs as well in the park that would love to get funding, I'm sure, from the private entities in there. But
And that sounds like part of the Vision 2050 plan that you're talking about. All right, let's take a few
Wait,
audience
no.
questions.
See, we know, no. See,
2050,
you
yeah,
have-
too far.
2050 is too long. It is a new day. It is a new era, right, Borough President? We are getting things done now. So as private investment is going into this community, we are working on the government side to make sure that these investments happen in our communities now. I don't want to build something that my children will enjoy. I want to build something that I can, while I'm in this, of course they'll enjoy it, but I want to see it in my lifetime because, again, we're just kicking the can down the road. I'm doing projects now in my district that former council member Jalissa Ferreras Copeland approved. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So please don't give me years like that.
Let me just add something to this too, and this is why, and the councilwoman is on board too. We created this interagency infrastructure, right? Because, and what we found at the table, Anthony, right, is like agencies weren't even talking to each other, who have anything to do with the site. So having DOT, DEP, DDC, having them at the table is key in really moving the blueprint that Anthony's talking about forward. And I'm just going back to that conversation I had with the mayor. This has to be of the highest priority to him. I mean, you look at the World Fair infrastructure there, and obviously the infrastructure there is rotting. But there has to be some federal intervention eventually as well there. So we really want to be strategic in how we look at the park. And of course, I want to thank Tom for his investment because we didn't have to beg him. We did not have to beg him when he came in initially. We didn't have to beg him for community support. So I just want to put that on the record.
Let's take a couple audience questions, please. The aforementioned Ben from the consulate.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Ben, Katie, thank you so much for being panelists here and hosting us, Ben. And thank you to all the panelists and the BP for the speech. Despite my accent, I do actually work for the British consulate here in New York. I'm a dual national. And we're really proud as the UK for some of the involvements we have, whether it's British artists playing at GovBall every year, whether it's British winners at the US Open from Emirata Kanu may make another run, or it's with the football, as we like to call it, with the World Cup and our good partners over at NYCFC. We're really excited for the stadium to be built. But the UK is New York's top foreign direct investor year in, year out, and really appreciate partnership with EDC as well. But wanted to ask, where do you think international partnership and investment and collaboration fit in this kind of puzzle of how Queens is moving into this big new era? So open that up to the panel.
Yeah, so as you know, EDC has a business development team. I'm sure that's what you're talking about, that actively works with consulates and with other businesses, not only globally, nationally, but also in the city to help them grow and reposition themselves if they're growing. And so we work, I think they've gone to London and done a whole tour. I think I'm meeting with somebody from London next week. I don't remember who it is, but I can talk to you afterwards. So we have an ongoing relationship. We work with the international team at the mayor's office as well. So global investment, global, not only for like investing into the infrastructure and being part of our, what we're doing here in New York City, but also bringing your businesses here and making sure that they understand that New York City is open for business, that we can help you navigate, because New York City is, and we actually place more businesses globally and nationally in the outer boroughs than we do in Manhattan, because people sort of think initially in Manhattan, but our team makes a concerted effort with the site selectors to go into the outer boroughs and to make sure that, because that's where the workforce is, that's where, sort of all the services are. So, and people are really, taken by that. And then they locate in sort of the outer boroughs, which is really fantastic. So we'll look forward to continue working with you.
Next question.
I have a two-part question. Regarding the Willets Point project, how will it affect the residents? Will it gentrify the neighborhood or neighborhoods? And regarding Aqueduct Racetrack Station, which is served by the A train, you think it's possible you could build the uptown platform?
Oh,
That
that's,
station has no uptown
All right.
platform.
Yeah, he's right.
And
well,
it-
that's happening. That was part of their agreement with the MTA. And by the way, Resorts World has already delivered, I believe, 500 million to the MTA for that. So a platform will be built. That was part of the deal. And then for Willets, and obviously let the council member go in, but I'll just say it as it inked its way through snaked its way through the rezoning process, we were very intentional on ensuring that the bandwidth of the incomes served a broad variety of incomes. And one of the most important things to us through the process was, as well, as taking care of our homeless neighbors. So 200 of those units of people moving in right now are set aside for what will be the formerly homeless. And then we worked out a deal where we had nonprofits like WIN, Breaking Ground, who could also provide services. But if you go into those buildings, it's literally like living in a hotel. Like imagine coming from a shelter and living outside Citi Field. You literally don't know how to pay for a ticket to watch the Mets. Probably some of the game, some of the angles as well. You could watch the soccer games and football games as well. That's just me. That's it. Anyway, that's what I thought. But I'm cheap. All right, I didn't want to bite. But that will continue. And the senior housing portion is 100% affordable as well, which we broke ground on the day we cut.
All 2,400 units are 100% permanently affordable. There's no market rate housing, and it's focused on Queens residents.
Thank you. Will that platform become fully wheelchair accessible?
That's the MTA doesn't really have a choice. But the good thing about them building anew now is that yes, anything they're building anew is accessibility is built into it.
We are going to leave it there. Round of applause for our panel, please. Thank you so much, especially for those traveling from Queens and back to Queens. Thank you. I know the journey. Thank you all for being here. Please do join us again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's go, Nick.
Perfectly timed. Like 10:28.
See you.
Yeah.
Thank you.